Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In today's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be looking at murders around Monrovia. Is anyone really safe? That's what we're going to be talking about. Someone said the death of any person diminishes me. So when somebody dies, it is a sad thing, right? Those of us who believe the Bible says it's appointed to man once to die. So death is part of our life, it is inevitable. But sometimes we also believe someone can die before their time, especially if that person is forced to early grave by the action of criminals and other wicked people. Tonight, we're going to be first feeling very sad about the death of fellow Liberians who departed this world under mysterious circumstances or unexplained death, as we want to call them. So tonight, I've invited people from different backgrounds so that we can talk about the deaths around Monrovia and other parts of the country. First, we have FOL contributor Mrs. Abby Tyler. Abby, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thanks for having me.
And Abby, by the way, is a family nurse practitioner, and she runs the Abby Tyler Healthy Living, also a contributor here at Focus on Liberia. Next, I have a scientist, Dr. Saki Gulafale, who also runs Chemistry and Society. That's on a little sabbatical now, let me let you know. Dr. Saki is a professor right here at Kansas State University. Dr. Gulafale, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ja. It's a pleasure to be here.
This topic is so serious that I brought everybody out so we can discuss it. Next, we have FOL Public Policy Analyst, Mrs. Carl Famler. Carl, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
My pleasure.
And by the way, Carl also is a historian and she's regular here on Focus on Liberia. Next is the a fellow talk show host of Everything Liberia, that's Jessica Jare, aka Lady J. Lady J, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you.
Jessica is, I call her the Dr. Phil of our community. She discusses these issues. Yeah, Jessica. And she's the host of the FOL Sex and Relationship Conversation. It's every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Lady J, again, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Last but not the least is Dr. Rockefeller F. Cooper II for the first time on Focus on Liberia. Dr. Rockefeller, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.
Dr. Rockefeller, we are happy to have you, especially for the first time on Focus on Liberia. We want to extend you a bottle of water to say welcome and feel at home.
Thanks, thank you.
And by the way, Dr. Rockefeller is a forensic medical consultant. He will explain what that means. And Dr. Rockefeller Cooper, again, forensic medical legal consultant. Call that name, I can't pronounce it.
So it's forensic medical legal
Okay.
consultant, yes.
And what does that mean?
Yeah, so basically, what I do is forensic death investigation with regards to the establishment of causes and manners of death. So, for example, if a person died, of course, and this includes a post-mortem examination. So we do autopsies. So what it was a homicide, suicide, accidental death, natural, since people do die, you know, and then you have to kind of work the mechanisms in between to know exactly what happened so that you come up with a compulsive report, which, by the way, includes forensic toxicology and information gathered from medical centers and stuff like that. So we put all of those pieces together to help come up with a complete picture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rockefeller. And again, Dr. Gulafale is not a professor. He's a lecturer at Kennesaw State University, By the way, my daughter attends that school, but they have not been able to meet. So there is no quid pro quo here.
What's not wrong with that? It's networking.
Right. Again, we want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. There have been a lot of deaths in Liberia, and this is nothing new. And let's bring our viewers up to speed. What really made the most recent of them all is the death of a young lady in Monrovia recently, Princess Cooper, and an autopsy was conducted. And a lot of people look at the autopsy report and they were not satisfied. And the way I described it when I was advertising the show, which some people took issue at it, was a flacage autopsy. And people didn't like that. I was forming an opinion. Flacage is a local term meaning not too clear, kind of bogus, but we're going to get into that. A lot of deaths have occurred over the years. And Ambassador Nathaniel Barnes, when he was doing his, he wrote an op-ed last year where he listed some of the names of people that died, and he said, enough is enough. And those were some of the names. Dr. William R. Tubber III, and he put the dates, Maud Elliott, John H. Tubman, an unidentified woman, Melvin Farley, you remember the EPS guy, Florence Massacre, Robert N. Blambo, Bobby S. Bingwai, Siafa Buaman, Albert Peters, Miss Gifty Laman, Elijah Pullman, and the list go on and on. Quite recently also, or not too recently, we know of, we shouldn't forget the death of Odell Sherman. She was the young lady who was unconsciously found in the home of Reverend Emmanuel Giddens in Doazon, Mangibby County. We, if you can remember, the 3 missing boys, and that had to do something, fingers were being pointed at St. Moses. There was a female officer of the Liberia Immigration Service killed in her own residence in Brewerville. There was the death of Joseph Blama in Grand Bassa County, who have gone to a praying woman to pray in a praying yard. Also, there was a death of a girl on the beach in Monrovia. There is also a recent death of a young man in the Elwa Palm Bush community, and so on and so forth. So these deaths, it's scary. Jessica, let me start with you. Do this scare you? And I feel like, is anybody safe? Is that a legitimate concern that with all these deaths, how do people feeling? Do people really feel safe in Liberia, or is anybody exempt from being a casualty in this kind of unexplained deaths?
Thank you for your question. People in Liberia are the number one focus when it comes to their response to these things because they live there. And sometimes I feel a little wary because the way we take it here, the manner of seriousness that we put into it, I don't see it sometimes being displayed and exhibited there. So it's concerning to me a little bit. People are concerned, but they're not actually putting those energies or those concerns into what might need to be done. And for example, Odell Sherman's death, there was a lot of, things said, investigation, and this girl was found at a man's house, and a well-known person. And today, Odell is in the ground, and we don't have any conclusion as to how she really died, what happened. Nobody took responsibility, and no one was really, investigated as I thought it would be. And this is like a drill where people know what's going on. They don't want to talk because maybe they've been approached and they've been given money. But this is something that's been happening like Liberia for a long time. And let's just step aside from death and just go into just abuse of children. Little kids will be abused by these older men, and they will consider and say, let's talk to the family way. And they will consider and talk to the family way, and that child life will be ruined. And the person will give the parents money, and that's it. Uncle say, I should do this, and I did it, and this child's life is ruined. And nobody's saying anything. The last time I talked about something like this, I said if the people in Liberia cannot put seriousness into like wanting to advocate for these things because they live there, it's going to be hard for us to want to do anything because that much we can do. We're here. Someone's not going to jump on a plane every time there's a murder and go down to Liberia and say, oh, I can go do investigation like Mr. Cooper. I can go do investigation. I'm going to go see how best I can do autopsy. Like, advocates to go stand on the road and put placards up and stuff like that. They have to show that they are going through something and they need our help for us to be able to make the moves that we can make. Our hands are short. So yes, Liberia is not safe. And they know that Liberia is not safe, and they accept that Liberia is not safe, but they're not doing anything. So it's really it's a touchy subject. It's really sad, and sometimes I see these things. I don't want to put it up on my page, but it's my responsibility to let the public know that this is what's happening, and it's just sad.
Dr. Gulafale, in your view, why are these things happening, or is it something normal? But I don't think they are normal. But we don't seem to get a closure to these deaths. The perpetrators hardly brought to justice. If there is anything, and it keeps happening, and happening. Why do you think this is happening? And we don't seem to, the government don't seem to have a handle on it.
Thank you, Mr. Ja, and I'll like to pick up from Lady J. I think the whole thing boils down on loyalty versus honesty. And I'm speaking from the layman, not from an expert psychologist. I'm not a psychologist. But from my own readings and understanding of how uh, things work in Liberia, especially when it comes to politics, uh, these things happened before. They've been happening for rack of ages, and there's been no accountability. It happened during the Ellen government. We know the issue of Keith Juba. We know the case of Harry Greaves. All of those cases just were just swept under the carpet. But the people during the day of Ellen, what were they saying? A lot of them were tight-lipped because they were lawyer. Today, a lot of them are talking, all right? They're preaching honesty. And the other people who were backing at them during the Ellen, they are preaching loyalty. India, that loyalty is to protect whoever is involved because it questions the credibility of the government to keep the country secure if there's any you know conclusion to the death that it may have led to some negligence of the government providing security. So there's always this covered up for the government because people feel they are loyal more to certain people than the society or the country as a whole. And then there's another group who feel that, oh, we have to, or people have to be honest, people are lying, people are not saying the truth. But think about it, when you flip it around, those people who are preaching today against the lawyer group, they will also be lawyers. So every time we have new government, there's a new group of people who change their moral compass can change from being honest to just being loyal to a particular group of people. On the other hand, families have responsible also families share the responsibility. We have a completely broken family structure in Liberia. And all of these are contributions from the war. So there's no one group to hold responsible. The government is not the only one. The issue of let's talk this thing about child abuse, let's settle it the family way, it's all because of the family being one of the most important social structure in the country, in the society, is broken. There's this complete disconnection. So I think that is what I think from a layman point of view. And as we go further, I would like to hear. I hope to hear from Dr. Cooper on the issue of the forensic issue. I would like to speak from the chemistry side background on some of those analyses that were done. But that's what I have to say about your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Abby. Abby, I'm not asking you a medical question yet. I want to say you follow happenings in Liberia. One of the things we hear is anytime something happens, they say, "Oh, This thing has been happening since 1822. If there was trash in Monrovia, they say, well, Ellen time, you didn't see the trash, the same trash. Why are you talking now? From the way you follow events in Liberia, with these unexplained death, these murders, things that we don't have, what caused a mysterious death? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? Still the same? Or what do you see as something that is not normal or that has changed when it comes to murders around Liberia?
I can't say for certain whether has been increasing or decreasing. I think it's more of there's more public size now because there's more social media. We can hear about it quicker than we used to back in the day. Like before, I'm sure there were things that went on in Monrovia that people didn't hear about in from the interior places outside of Monrovia. And we didn't hear about it in America that quickly either. But because of having the social media and everything else, and the radio and faster way of communication. Now we can hear about it more, and the manner of death that we didn't have at that time, we can hear about it more now. So you have to follow, like he said before, the social reasons behind the murders, the motives behind the murders, and then you can come to a conclusion that okay, maybe these are the things that we need to watch out for. These are the areas that we need to address. And as far as the child abuse issue and all, I guess we can talk about that right away. That's been going on forever. It's just something that was kept in within the family. Like she said, we talked about it. We're like, okay, somebody got raped or somebody got assaulted, whatever. It was like you come over here, you talk about it. But even now in Liberia, in order to even press charges, doesn't the person, the victim, have to go and pay to even get anything started? So how many regular people in Liberia can afford that? So when you're being victimized one time by being assaulted, and then victimized by not being able to afford a lawyer or even to afford the police to come in and do any kind of investigation moving forward and getting a lawyer. And also, you mean it's a whole societal issue, and there's so many factors, multifaceted, that you have to go, examine each one in order to get to where you need to be. But I don't think it's more murders now. I just think because we know more about it quicker than we did before.
Thank you. Dr. Cooper, I will come to the specific of the forensic. Well, to the best of your knowledge, what's the history of autopsy and what the response or what the results have been over the years in Liberia? Have we been having autopsies, and what has it been like over the years in Liberia when it comes to murders?
Great question. So as far as I can recall, start from back in the 80s, we did have someone who was forensically trained in performing forensic autopsies, and that was Dr. Moses.
Isaac Moses.
And then, yes, Isaac Moses. And then that kind of went on until around when Joe Tate and the others were involved in that plane crash at Roberts Field, and then everything basically dissolved. Now, as far as we start off looking at from the Angel Tukpa death, which was around, I think it was 2007, 2008. I'm not too sure. But so then we had autopsies being performed from then. So here's the issue with autopsies in Liberia. Well, before I go into that, let me just go ahead and talk about autopsy first, and then you will be able to understand by looking at the backdrop. So the term autopsy, as the spelling is, if you look at the spelling, is AUTO and then PSY. So auto, self. So it's all about seeing for yourself. Okay. Now, there are two types of autopsies that can be performed. You have a clinical based autopsy that's performed by clinical pathologists, and then you have a forensic based autopsy, or what's referred to as a medical legal based autopsy. And that is performed by a forensic pathologist or a physician who has adequate training in forensic medicine and forensic pathology. And the reason for that specifically is to ensure that there's the establishment of an identity, so who the person is, also the causes and manner of death. So causes: you die from a stab wound, die from a gunshot wound. Okay. The manner of death: was it suicide? Was it homicide? Was it accidental death? What do I mean by that? Obviously, if somebody, if you die at the hands of another, that is considered as homicide. If you were stressed out for whatever reason, for example, due to divorce, financial hardship, and you shot yourself, that will be considered as suicide. If you were playing Russian roulette, then that will be an accidental death. Some would say accident by misadventure. And then if for example, you're a 95-year-old and you went to bed and never woke up the following morning, more than likely that will be ruled as a natural death. With that being said, also at times you're just not able to work your way around it. So the cause of the I'm sorry, the manner of death will be classified as undetermined. Or if there's suspicion, because sometimes you have that gut instinct as an investigator that something just isn't right, then you just go ahead and put it in pending status until you gather information from all the other components. Now, all of what I just said has to do with medical legal autopsies or forensic autopsies, which requires a special skill set. When it comes to clinical autopsy, for example, if Nurse Tyler, has been managing your patient for maybe the same patient for about 5 years, the patient is just not responding, okay? And let's say this patient died at home, for example. Um, the body could be autopsy by a clinical pathologist. Reason being, and by the way, the medical history is also going to be taken into consideration. So let's say it was a patient with CHF, congestive heart failure. Okay, that can involve other systems such as the pulmonary and the renal, so the lungs and the kidneys. The person may have other underlying comorbidities like diabetes and high blood pressure, so to speak. So the autopsy will be, done to help the family have closure, and it can also be used for academic purposes, for training medical students, doing research, as well as residents per se. Okay, or just hospital staff, training doctors and nurses. The reason why that is done is to establish a blueprint so that when there's another situation, we know how to approach it. Let me step off base for a second. Now, if we do have another COVID outbreak or Ebola outbreak, at least we'll know that, a series of initial steps to take. All right. Also, the clinical pathologist, what he or she does would be to study specimens. So, for example, a lady has a mass in her mammary gland, aka the breast. During a surgical procedure, after that mass has been removed, it is now sent down to pathology so that it will be studied by the clinical pathologist to establish basically to appreciate the integrity of the mass itself. Is it malignant or is it benign? So, and then of course that will be used to support further treatment for the patient. So, so that's just to give you an insight. Now, when we move down to Liberia, autopsies basically, governments have been interested only in establishing what the death, what the death was. Basically, was it homicide, suicide, and that's it. The service, and when I say service, I mean autopsy, because autopsy is a service that is supposed to be made available for citizens of every country. Those of us into forensic medicine, we do consider decedents as our patients as well. So even though you're dead, we still treat you with the utmost respect, as in upholding your dignity, ensuring that the cause of your death has been established, and the manner of the manner of death as well is also proper, because you deserve, to have a voice speaking on your behalf. But that has not been a fair deal in Liberia. People see an autopsy as this glorious effect. Well, I can understand where that is coming from, because it's not something that's been done every day. But in the same token, we look up to autopsy as the key or the final solution. That is not correct. For example, if you look at the most recent autopsies that were done, the reason why those autopsies were, I'm sorry.
No, I say we're going to come specifically to those autopsy.
Well, I was just going to cross reference so you understand what I'm talking about, because when it comes to autopsy, it's not
Okay,
an
quickly.
everyday topic, right? So the reason why, for example, though there are serious issues with those cases is because, or those autopsy report is because proper correlations were not made between the crime scene or death scene, okay, and the post-mortem exam. It requires a special skill set. So, for example, what a person like me, is capable of doing is securing certain facts from where the incident took place or where the body was discovered, and then looking at the body on the post-mortem table. So, in that way, you can connect the dots, and then you are able to come up with, some sort of a logical explanation. So that is it. And in most countries, you have their systems have to be put in place. So, like here in the United States, we have the coroner system as well as the medical examiner system, and some jurisdictions have a hybrid of both. Now, the coroner system, which is similar to, well, we do have a replica of that in Liberia, but the coroner system basically, the coroner can be anyone. That's the that's the downside of it. When I say anyone, it can be Miss Jones, who is the hairstylist in the community, to Dr. Johnson, who is an internist. Okay. And if they feel that the case warrants an autopsy, then it will be forwarded, to the medical examiner office or to an
Yeah.
autopsy service. The medical examiner system, on the other hand, what they do is, whenever there's basically when a person is dead, especially like at home or if the body was found in some secluded area or whatnot, it is sent straight to the ME's office and it is autopsy. At that point in time, they could run anywhere from just a simple external examination, which may or may not include toxicology, to a partial autopsy or a complete autopsy. And
Thank
there are
you.
several reasons why.
Thank you. And we're going to go more into the specifics when we come back. Let me come to a call. There is anytime these things happen, my question to you is, are we blowing these things out of proportion, or is it like these deaths, are they like normal crimes rate that go on everywhere? Because some will tell you, hey, look at Chicago, look at New York, look at this place, look at that place. So why are people saying these things about death? It is normal crime rate, especially after war or after, or people that don't have those capabilities. If we don't have the trained law enforcement officers, these are kind of normal. Are these normal, or are we kind of blowing things up here?
So I'm going to answer your question from a public policy perspective, because it's normal for Liberia, the circumstances in Liberia, and this is why. There's really about 5 factors that go into what we call trust in government. So some of the reaction that we're seeing is a result of distrust. So one of the factors that we look at as policy analysts when we try to correct situations of distrust in government, some of the things that we survey are like responsiveness. How responsive is the government to certain issues? And so when we're specifically talking about murders or suspicious deaths, how responsive are government authorities in these situations? Also reliability. Do they provide consistent and regular public service when it comes to law enforcement and investigations of suspicious death? This is not just law enforcement; it also has to do with medical, response, all kinds of factors. But so, do they feel that that these services are adequate? Integrity is also one. If people feel that, I heard a lot of the panelists say, bring up integrity issues. Integrity is if people feel that the government, or have belief that the government does not have integrity, or officials in government don't have integrity, they're less likely to believe that they're able to solve or resolve situations where deaths are suspicious, unexpected. And then fairness, are government officials viewed, or government viewed as being fair in how they investigate and solve murders, depending on the class the person comes from, maybe if it's a high profile person or not. All of these are, issues in Liberia. So it is absolutely expected that citizens are not going to have confidence in the results that government presents, or even in the ability to present results in the first place. So citizens have a very high suspicion when it comes to death, also because we come from a very superstitious society. And that is another thing too. People believe things without facts. People jump to wild conclusions without facts. And also, in the face of facts, when people see things and it's blatant, there's a history of things, being denied. So all those things on a policy level add to distrust. So you've got a very, very superstitious society, like with the St. Moses case is a great example. People believe very, very strongly in superstitious things, and it's reality for them. So no other answer, no other plausible answer is going to be satisfactory for them if it doesn't reaffirm their superstition, their belief that there was, some spiritual cause or some sacrificial cause or something like that. So if there's no reinforcement, the response is going to be denied. That is exacerbated by the fact that you have all of these other issues that I just went through: the incompetence, the lack of integrity as far as public perception goes. So yes, every time there's an even if the death is an accident, a motor vehicle accident, there's going to be suspicion that there was something other than an accident that caused the death. This is a well orchestrated murder. These are the kinds of things that occur in societies like Liberia. And so government is faced with this very difficult situation where they have very limited resources. But anytime there's a high profile death, they get a lot of public pressure and pressure from the family. They expend resources to do things that people don't trust they're able to do. So now we've had an autopsy done, which, is what's normal in a suspicious death situation. But then the government's saying, well, since you don't trust our scientists, our professionals, I should say, you can now, pick your own professional. We will pay for that to be done. That's like, even if they do get another autopsy performed, it doesn't correct the original problem, which is that they don't trust the government to be able to resolve these issues. Here in Georgia, and in fact, all states across the country, there are characteristics for certain deaths that require autopsies, of course: homicides, suicides, violent deaths. All these kinds of things, are going to require, the manner of death. For some states, it has to be more extreme than another. In some states, you need multiple factors. But I'm not going to get into it. It's a bit boring. But the reason I brought that up is that these investigative autopsies are not performed on every death in the United States or anywhere in the world. There has to be a causal factor for that to be done. So I think Dr. Cooper also alluded to that as well. But with all of that being said, the policy issue, just to conclude, the policy issue here is that the government has not been able to establish itself as an authority, a trustworthy authority among the citizens. And that's really unfortunate and dangerous.
Thank you. And one question I want to, a lot of you, almost all of you should attempt here is, we're here when we heard the death of the auditors, and the story out there was they found something on government, and government was trying to hide something, and so government was responsible. So government had an incentive. So when they made a report, people were not satisfied and said, well, government had an incentive to hide something. So I'll call those kind of deaths political death, right? That's what is in the society. I'm not trying to minimize one death over the other, but there are other deaths that are non-political, I felt, or we may think are non-political. Like starting with the death of the young lady, Odell Sherman, who went to take a high school national exam, and she died. I'm sitting wondering to myself, well, we understand that because we don't trust our government. So if there's a death that had to do with a politician, or something that we believe is politically motivated, government may have incentives to be like a bicycle or to be unwilling or may try to hide something. But what's about other death? I mean, a young man who quite recently they said he was probably beaten and then thrown in the ocean. And there are other deaths that you won't see why government will be slow to act or fail to bring any perpetrator to justice. So, Jessica, I'm sitting here wondering why is that also? I'm not giving an excuse for government to hide something, but those other ones, why will government not take action or do something?
So, great question. There are two groups of people in Liberia. We have the rich and the poor. And I have not seen a situation where maybe someone that's in the upper echelon of their life or the life in Liberia being held responsible for certain things that they might have done or not done. So in this situation, it's really hard for us to find these perpetrators, because if a poor man does something, the news comes up that this person sodomized this child and they were put in jail and stuff like that. They'll be in jail for so and so time. But I've never seen a member of the government, maybe a Lebanese businessman or a very rich man being held or woman being held responsible. And even in Liberia, when you go to Liberia, these people live differently. They live differently. When you say, do you know who I am? That is like a lifestyle. They feel so entitled that they own everything and they can do anything and nobody will do anything to them. So most of these things that are going on that are unsolved, that we're not hearing about, people feeling so scared to talk, people under duress and all those things, happens to be, from my point of view and other people I've talked to, happen to be doings of people that are just high in government or high in society. Nobody wants to talk. People know about things that are going on. People will say, don't call my name up, or, I know about certain things that happen, but you ain't hear it from me, because at the end of the day, I don't want to get in trouble. When I had a situation with immigration, something a really high government official told me, he said, Jessica, once you kill in this country here, you will be able to leave Liberia and go back to America with a case here. And even though we know, the ins and outs of the case, I was able to leave. But if I was a rich person that had done such an act, I would have still been able to pay money and leave. If I had taken a life, I'll still be able to pay money and leave, because that's what they do there. These things are swept under the rug because the people that do it, they go up, I did this, and I can't be held responsible. So we're not seeing government holding people responsible for the things that they do. When the chief of police come up with this Princess Cooper's case and say stuff like no foul play without even doing any investigation, when the president of Liberia comes out and say, that man will want business that people were doing, and that's how they die in the car and stuff like that, these kind of statements are reckless. So when you hear things like that, people are trying to make light of people's death, people's murders. And it is concerning to me, because I feel that it's all people know about what's going on. They're just not talking because they don't have the opportunity to talk, or they're not at that place to talk because of who's taking care of what.
Yeah, thank you. Same question, Abby and Priscilla brought something to my attention. Say you may not know, you may think that those deaths are maybe regular people, but you may not know what their political connections may be. So I'm still on that question. Why were these something that you may call easy murders or cases? Why will they not be prosecuted, or why will government not follow up? Why will we not see the perpetrators being brought to justice? What's the story, you think?
You want me to answer? Okay.
Are you talking to me now or him?
Abby, you.
Okay. All right. I mean,
and Mr. Dr. Cooper, you can come after Abby on the same question.
Okay, building what you said, Yeah, anything that has to do with any kind of public person or person of means, of course, nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to pursue it because that person is a person of means and they have all the opportunities to do what they want and get away with it. That happens in other society as well. But also when you're talking about places like Liberia, where the have and the have nots and they have none at all, it's so vast between. So that's what's going to happen. And also, I mean, when it comes to the poorer people, the lack of resources to the law enforcement has, and the amount of people who are competent to go and make like proper investigation to do everything. I mean, for some of us who are like lay people who watch TV in America, you see, all the detectives and you see all the different forensic things and everything else that go along with their technology. Liberia doesn't have that. Even if they do, it's not so plentiful that they're willing to sacrifice to go after something that they may consider insignificant. Like you said, the president could say, "Oh, they were just doing man woman business. That's the reason that happened." So right away, that murder it's put on the back burner because it's not considered important. So only somebody who, and most of the time, even with these young ladies when they die, and people are not talking about it that much back home, it's mainly the advocacy from over here that brings anything to the forefront, anyways. So they talk to the family members, they talk to other people who are related to that person, and then it becomes major news. Other than that, it just goes like that because they got priorities. If it's rich person, it's not going to happen, and if it's poor person, we have this amount of resources to go after this, and the amount of people that we have to work in this case. So we're not going to consider not wasting that, for lack of a better word. We're not going to use resources that we don't have, limited resources, to go after something that we consider that is not that family member can just discuss, even though it's important that murder is murder, but they don't see it that way. And until people talk about it over here and bring it to the forefront, nothing's going to happen because in Liberia, everybody's just trying to live life and just survive. Who has time to be stopping for every bad thing that happens? It's not like they don't care. But when you're in a community and you're in a society where living day to day is a struggle, you're going to pay attention to those things. All right, because same way over here, you say, okay, why can't people go march? Why can't you come in and come to this rally? Why can't you do this? Well, you can go and do that because you have the time to take off from work. You can have the time, you have the means to do that. I have to I'm working, from day to day. So not because I don't care, it's because I'm just trying to survive the next time around. Hopefully, when I get to the point where I can afford to do that, yes, I will come up. So for now, I'm going to depend on people who live overseas and other places who can advocate on my behalf. So everything falls on us over here or other places in the diaspora, and sadly, that's the way of life. That's what they have to deal with. It's sad.
Thank you. And Dr. Cooper, before you come, let me add a comment here from Dr. Stella Jeffries. See, we cannot always degrade our country. What we're doing tonight is things that is degradation. We cannot always degrade our country. This needs to stop. Every single country, every nation has people who are menace to society. Is it in New York, California? There are people who are just destructive to their own society. We cannot blame the entire country for those people lawlessness. And she continues here by saying, this show today is detrimental to Liberia. So go ahead, Dr. Cooper.
Okay. So what was the name again? Did I say Dr. Jeffries?
Yeah, Stella Jeffries.
Okay. So Dr. Jeffries, I think you are absolutely incorrect. The issue at hand here, Dr. Jeffries, is this: there's no system in place to support, the availability of any form of accountability as a whole. Now, coming from a death investigational standpoint, one, you don't even have a database in place or a national death registry, okay, to even give account where we're able to look and say, um, this year we had 20 homicides, 30 suicides, 50 accidental death, be it motor vehicle, and natural death, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's the first thing. Because you don't have a system in place, issues are not being handled properly. Now, it comes a point in time, Dennis, where the people themselves will begin to realize, even though they are not professionals in whatever aspect there may be, But just doing their own little calculation, they'll be able to figure out that something is just not right. And that is the case. I'll give you a very quick and easy example. So we've had a series of deaths in Liberia. Every time those deaths are autopsied by people in Liberia, some sort of question is raised. Okay. July 16 of last year, whilst I was in Liberia, I was subpoenaed by the coroner to assist with a post-mortem examination of a gentleman who was believed to have been beaten and electrocuted. Why is it that after the conduction of the said exam, the families did not take, they did not take to the streets? Why was there not a rampage? This was not like a political situation where I was trying to secure votes. They believed in me. They trusted what I had to say because I was able to bring them up, up to that level where they were able to see transparency and trustability. Why was I able to do that? Because my actions were based on my professional conduct. So I was playing on my turf. Okay. It was not something where I was being asked to do something that I'm not familiar with. So why is it that you never heard anything about, and this man was working at LEC. So it was believed that, he was beaten and electrocuted. Yes, they protested at LEC, but after the exam, that was it. Why is it that after these exams being conducted by other people, the masses are now rising up? And I said they are now rising up because at first, things took off slowly. You have a death here, then you have a span, then you have another case. And, they talk about the situation for about a week or so, and that's it. Okay. But now, as you rightfully ask, are we safe? That is the question that needs to be answered by every Liberian. There is no guarantee that a person may wake up, leave home, and come back tomorrow. At this point in time, I can comfortably say that because you don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so um, because of that, we have an issue. And like I said, until a system is put in place, we will continue to run into these situations. It is the responsibility of every government to secure the well-being of its citizens. So, but that's not the situation we have in Liberia. Is it intentional? No, I think it's just based on, the lack of knowledge and, and based on loss and competence. So not being aware of certain things and also not having the right people in the right places for the most part.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Ja, can I come in a little bit?
Yeah, let me throw something there as you come in, because you talk about this loyalty thing, right? And I know I want to point out Gamada Clinton, who is a sedition who has appeared here. He's saying some murders are sensationalized by political figures to arouse public sentiments against the government.
He should know.
You
He
see,
should know.
You should know.
Mr. Ja, let me address that. Let me address Mr. Clinton. I think Gamada is a legal-minded person, but from the political standpoint, I've said it and I'll continue to say it. There is this group of people that feel they are loyal to their political groups, so that affiliation dilutes their honesty to be honest about what's happening. And there's another group of people who want to be honest, but they're afraid because they may be the next victim. Like one of the panelists rightly said, people want to speak out, but they don't want their name being called. All right. So to address the issue that Mr. Clinton said, it's on both sides of the political divide. When one group is in power, they're definitely going to think that it's being sensationalized because of political scope. And they will say all kinds of things to prevent and the dark cloud being cast on the government, that the government is incompetent to provide the needed security. But the issue of a specific case I wanted to address here that Mr. Cooper talked about, Dr. Cooper talked about incompetence. The level of incompetence we see every time when these reports come out. You know, as a scientist, I read some of these reports, I just shake my head. A typical example, I will reference a newspaper article on the report that regarding the auditor's death, those that were found in a car. It says the cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning. Yeah, and guess what I read? I'm referencing the newspaper. I didn't have access to the whole report to read. It says carbon monoxide positive. Now, it's every human being, regardless whether you're a smoker or non-smoker, there's some level of carbon monoxide in your system. But that level that could lead to death, it depends on the percentage. And if somebody is telling me that they're providing a report on carbon monoxide, but their report is qualitative, I tend to question it because I want to see the numbers that will convince anyone that that level of carbon monoxide is enough in the blood that will kill that person. So I didn't see the whole report. I don't know whether the report mentioned in it that they died because their blood level carbon monoxide was positive, because that's just vague. It doesn't show numerical value to validate the cause of death. So that's some of the incompetence. And also the recent report that I watched the video from start to end. You can see clearly that the people who did the job, all the people who were speaking, that they were just not the right people to do the job. They presented, it was just unprofessional. And one of the things I thought to address about from the science perspective, if I would like to get your own view about this. The view I hold about scientific evidence or cause of death versus opinion. They are doctors stated that the three scientific cause of death, but at the conclusion they said it's based on their own professional and expert opinion. So I'm not sure whether, because opinions have bias, there's subjective influence involved. How do we reconcile the scientific cause of death and then the conclusion is based on expert opinion? So I'm still struggling with that, and the people have been arguing, we've been discussing about it, how people present reports that bring about confusion and doubts about the actual cause of death. So yeah, and I turn it over to the others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Dennis, I wanna clarify something really quickly.
Before you clarify, Cole, I want to welcome Dr. Bato Kula, who is just joining us. Dr. Kula, welcome back to Focus on Liberia. Been a while.
It has. Thanks for having me, Dennis. I'm really interested in discussing this issue because I feel like our Dr. Coley, has been under attack. He was under attack at Spoon. And so I wrote an article today and sent it to Daily Observer and the major news organs in Liberia defending Dr. Coley. And I know that Rockefeller's heart is in the right place, but I think he's going about this the wrong way. And so as we go on in the discussion, I'll make some recommendations to Rockefeller and to the Liberian population, as well as the Liberian government, about what we should do about these so-called strange deaths, quote unquote.
Exactly. Awesome.
Thank you, Carl.
So I'm glad that Dr. Kula said what he just said. But what I'll say is this: we've been very some of the commentary coming from these very educated medical professionals and scientists like Dr. Golafali are pretty surprising to me, and this is why. Dr. Golafali said that he did not read a report, a autopsy report, yet he's going off of a newspaper article and forming a very strong opinion instead of requesting from any of his colleagues in Liberia any documentation that he could look at and draw an informed conclusion. The newspapers in Liberia are run by people who don't even know how to edit properly. And so we have to be very, very careful how we discern information, whether it be political, whether it be scientific, whether it be about, just a basic, any story in Liberia. The journalists are doing an awful job, of reporting news and providing information to the public. This is a fact. A lot of times I'm not gonna, it's a different show. The second issue is we talk in these absolutes, and I would expect that professional people would not speak in absolutes. While it is true that the government has botched a lot of things, they have, in fact, Williams was convicted of killing that young journalist, and he is serving time in prison. He was friends with some very powerful people, President Sirleaf, Chris Massaquoi, all of these very powerful people. He was friends with many powerful people in the CDC government. He is in prison today, and to say that nobody goes to jail in Liberia is a little extreme. And to say that there is no database for deaths is not the truth. We have Listrus. We have a very weak statistical database, but it exists. It exists and it needs improvement. But to say that we don't keep track of any deaths, there's no place for death records, there's no such thing as death certificates in Liberia, that is not correct. The fact of the matter is, there are death certificates. They do keep statistics for deaths, especially murders. Every murder that's reported, every rape that's reported to the police is recorded in a database. This I know for a fact. So to say that these things don't exist, again, is a bit of an exaggeration. Are they adequate? Is every death in Liberia reported and recorded? Absolutely not. But most are. And it needs to be improved. And that's the only clarification I wanted to make. I just would like us to speak in terms of, we shouldn't speak in absolutes. We should be completely, realistic and honest about how we're addressing our country. Because I do agree with the person who made the comment that we are really just exaggerating, some of this stuff. And it doesn't serve our purpose either.
Okay, I would like Dennis, I would like to come in, and I would like to come in for basically for one reason, based on Dr. Kula's statement, and also to address what will it be Miss or Mrs. Fambula?
Mrs. Fambula.
Okay, what Mrs. Fambula said. So I must agree with what Dr. Golafali said, and here's the reason why, Mrs. Fambula. So those of us in the sciences, when we talk about numbers, we are and Dr. Kula would notice as well, because you have to look at, for example, lab results. Okay, you cannot say that you did an autopsy, and I can say this for a fact because this is something that I'm involved with, as in that line of work. You cannot say that you did toxicology and the person died because they had consumed marijuana and alcohol, okay, which play a major role in their death. Where are the numbers? Let's see the toxic.
But I hear you, but the point is not that. The point is the journalist did not report that. The information did not come from a scientific report. He just said he only read a newspaper article. I just want to make sure he knows what he's answering to, because that's not what I said.
I heard him correctly. Yeah, but the reason why I'm saying, again, okay, so
clearly you need numbers, but you need to go to the source for those numbers. You can't read a poorly written newspaper article and draw a conclusion.
No, it was Dr. Golafale who quoted the newspaper.
Yes, right, he's quoting a newspaper, not the report. I just want the public listening to be clear that he quoted a newspaper and not the report. So there's we haven't determined that the report didn't have numbers.
Right. Hold on, Dr. Golafali. So again, Mrs. Fambula, regardless of him quoting a newspaper, even that he read just today, what he stated, okay, has been the trend. And I can tell you that for a fact, because I've seen a lot of these autopsy reports. So I can tell you for a fact tonight, and I'm open to any challenge to see how that can be disputed. These reports, so first and foremost, for example, Odell Sherman, there's no toxicology report that was on her, yet it was reported that she had, she had consumed alcohol. One of the stories was that basically she was intoxicated and she fell and, died as a result of her head injuries. No toxicology report. So yes, and I can go on and on and on with cases. The numbers play a very important role. So with Dr. Golafali being a chemist, I understand exactly where he's coming from, because when you talk about the consumption of substances, we need to see if the amount of the substance in the body is detrimental. So, and you see, this is an issue that we need to address. It has come, it has come to my concern that we as Liberians have a problem with accepting the facts. We think that is about making our country look bad. Nobody wants to see Liberia, have a bad image. But if we don't speak up on the issues at hand, okay, what are we going to do? For example, Lady J made it clear that basically, in a nutshell, what the rich and wealthy can get away with, the poor cannot. That is a fact.
Dr.
The
Cooper,
poor, yes.
before you proceed, so the Odell Sherman case that you're quoting, are those numbers from the report itself or from the newspaper?
There was no toxicology work done on Odell Sherman, none whatsoever. But yet she was being accused of consuming this alcoholic beverage that's referred to locally as 10%. Okay.
When you say no toxicology report, meaning there was no autopsy report?
No. So during autopsies, Dennis, what we do is we secure body fluids, okay, to run toxicology on. And the reason why we do that is because we want to have an idea as to what's in the person's system. And there are so many reasons why, okay? You go into a hotel room as the maid to clean and you find a young lady lying on the bed and she's dead. Okay, we want to do toxicology as well as a part of the autopsy to see if she was drugged. Okay, did she consume any, poisonous substance, drugs?
So the report on the autopsy report on Odell Sherman did not contain toxicology.
No toxicology report was stated. All the only thing that was stated was she had, she had a skull fracture.
Thank you.
Okay, and again, this is why I mentioned earlier. I don't know if you can recall or not. In Liberia, the goal during autopsy is just to show what, basically what caused the person's death. So in this case, her death was being related to a fall. So she had a skull injury secondary to a fall. Okay, so so that's the reason why. The next thing I want to address is with regards to the death registry. So, Mrs. Fumbler, if we're going to say that we have a system in place, then we need to have a system. It cannot be where not every death is reported or not every death is recorded. And the reason why the system, okay, the death registry, the reason why I have a problem with it is because the deaths are not recorded properly. For example, the auditors. Forensically speaking, there's no way that Nyenswa could have died from a fall. So you're going to now label that, when I say you, I mean the investigators, not you in person. You're now going to label that as an accidental death. So now you've already mislabeled the cause of death in that person. Okay, Melvin Tukba, whose autopsy was also ran along with Princess Cooper. There's no way, from a forensic standpoint, Dr. Kula, that Dr. Benedict Cooley could have said that that the man died from a fall. From a fall where? Forensically, it doesn't add up. Okay?
Dr. Rockefeller, I differ with you completely. When you speak in these absolutes,
Dr. Kula, I will let you come in. I want Dr. Golafale to respond. Then I go to you, Dr. Kula.
Yeah, you see, I just to respond to Ms. Family on the issue of the newspaper source. We all know that newspapers are also sources of information. So if I read a newspaper, that's why I referenced the newspaper. I didn't say the report that I read. if the newspaper was actually quoting the report to say carbon monoxide positive, that's qualitative. It doesn't add up to tell me that the actual cause of death is carbon monoxide because it's not quantitative. I'm looking at numbers. All
I
right.
agree.
Good.
Right, but it's not the.
I
It's
just
not
wanted to
the.
clarify
Yeah.
that these newspapers do not
It's not the
properly quote
I don't
pathologist's
anything.
want
fault
I
that the
don't I don't
newspaper
want to
didn't put the
brush
quantity in there.
the newspapers under the rug because the information I'm giving, it questions the credibility of the government, or it questions the credibility of the auditors.
Can I?
The New
Yeah.
York Times,
Hold
the
on,
New
hold on,
York
Cole.
Times, the Washington Post, all of those newspapers do reports. FBI, other investigative agencies do reference those reports. So we cannot. You're talking about not putting the country under the rug, not making the country look
Dr.
bad.
Golifali, do
But
you
at the
know
same
the
time,
the
we're talking
education
about
of
our
Hold on,
the
Dr.
New York
Kula.
newspapers.
Times versus those in Liberia?
It's
No,
shocking that he's even making this
let's
analysis.
Hold on. Let Dr. Golafale
I'm
complete.
referencing a newspaper. If we are talking about we cannot degrade our country, we cannot put it on the rug. Of course, the newspapers do come up report that we reference and we trust some of those sources, the information that come.
That's yeah.
But the
At some
editing is
point in
poor.
time, if
You
it's
gotta
not in
admit
favor
that.
of us, people don't trust the newspapers. At some point in time, they trust the newspaper
You
stories.
gotta admit the
So
editing
part-
is poor,
part
the
of the
writing is
reason-
poor.
Hold on, guys.
I
Let
have no
Dr.
right
Golafale
to
complete.
reference the newspapers. If someone can come up with the report, I'll be happy to see what the actual
Hold on,
analysis
Cole.
show about carbon monoxide poisoning. So that's the clarity I wanted to make.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Let me
but when
bring
you
in.
come up and say something like expert opinion, that's what she's referring to. Because if there is an expert opinion, that means there was no research done. This person is just giving their knowledge on a layman's term answer to the question. So if you say an expert opinion, that means that person could just sit down and say, okay, this person just died from just falling down. That's
Right.
the expert opinion. So that's what she was referring to when she said, if we're talking about opinions, then we have to make sure that this is kind of like a research thing, like a data was put in place. They did a research, they did this, they did that. That's where she's coming from.
No,
So
Exactly.
you're being contradictory. You're being contradictory to what you're saying to us, because we can't be listening to expert opinions and looking at data information to be able to come to a conclusion of what has transpired. That's what she's trying to say.
Let me clear the issue of expert opinion I spoke about. It was a different issue that relates to the recent autopsy report.
Correct.
When I talk about expert opinion, because it's not, I'm not speaking that I'm saying I'm giving expert opinion. The pathologists or the doctors who gave the report recently,
correct,
they gave 3 scientific causes of death, and they concluded that based on their professional and expert opinion. That phrase I had an issue with. Correct. So I'm not saying I want to make it clear that's what
all I'm saying, Dr. Golafali, is that the expectation when we speak with such confidence about the quality of a report, the expectation is that you've actually seen the report. Especially in an environment like Liberia, where most of the rumors that are spreading in the country are generated by poorly performing journalists that are not educated or trained as journalists. They're not investigative reporters. And most of the stories that they report, they don't even identify the sources of the information. So we have to be very careful when we speak with authority about something that we haven't seen for ourselves. That's all I was saying. Because I know, I mean, they journalists report, oh, this bill was passed. You contact Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you can't get the bill because it doesn't exist, because the journalists misinformed the public. So all I'm saying is that when we're making such strong statements about scientists back home, we should be formulating those opinions based on things we've actually seen firsthand. That's all I'm saying, and that's my expectation.
Well, I would like to chime in.
Hold on, Dr. Cooper. Let Dr. Kula come in. He's been waiting.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Cooper. I mean, Kula.
Dr. Kula.
Yes. Let me just say for the record that I have no real training in forensics or pathology or anything like that. My background is family medicine, a resident physician in family medicine. with an MBA in healthcare management. However, what Dr. Coley presented to us was scientific, was professional, apart from the warnings that he gave earlier on because of the tense environment in the society. And he stood by his work and said he challenges anybody to come in and do the same thing. You know, the slides are there, or the parts are there, the anatomy and whatnot. The body is there. They can go in there, run their own slides, do their own tests and whatnot, and they will find the same exact thing. Now, what is our problem in Liberia? Our problem isn't that Dr. Coley isn't a forensic pathologist. Liberia is such a society that you might have one guy who's doing all the pathology in the country, and so he's trained as a general pathologist to handle both forensics and clinical stuff, right? In that regard, when he does his work, he's only going to tell us whether this person died of a natural cause, medical, or whether there was a homicide or a suicide or what have you. But it's up to the LMP homicide detectives, the crime scene investigators, their forensic labs, their blood spatter professionals, and all the other stuff that we take for granted here in America to put the pieces together and say, were there aggravating circumstances? Were there some extenuating circumstances? Was there something that happened prior to this or whatever? Put all the pieces together. But for you to say, this man is not qualified, he did the wrong, and so forth, it's wrong. Now,
Right.
Dr. Rockefeller's heart is in the right place. But let's admit, Rockefeller never went to residency for pathology, let alone forensics. He's saying he did a master's or something in a death investigation. Now, when I searched, the last job I saw that Rockefeller did was as a morgue technician, and the records are online. So when we're questioning our people, let's be honest with them about what's going on. There's a lot of politics going on, and certain people are being used for political means. Now, Rockefeller's heart is in the right place because he loves pathology. Why not either let the Liberian government train you in forensics, or go to a residency program, do pathology and forensic pathology, and go back home and help? But the question these guys, like you went back to Liberia during the Odell Sherman case, what Francine Chenoweth Richardson did not disclose when she was bombarding Dr. Coley was that she was involved in the Odell Sherman case, and she sent you to Liberia and you botched that case because you weren't qualified to do it. And as a result, they all lost that case. I mean, there's a question as to whether Odell was pushed from the height by somebody, whether she was raped by somebody,
Wow.
or whatever the case may be. But when you start getting into things and muddling them up, we mess everything up. It gets political, and we lose the essence of what we're trying to do. So what I say to the Liberian people, we have an opportunity right now. We have an opportunity, for one, to train our homicide detectives, to get the UN or whoever our partners, the Americans, to make sure we have CSI people, we have forensics and all of that, so that when Dr. Coley does his work, the forensics people can put the pieces together and say, look here, what the gentleman named that died in his house, maybe he did fall because he was drunk, or maybe somebody came in, beat him up, he was already drunk, whatever the case may be. Putting the pieces together is what we need, and not to condemn all our people as being less than, or they're not good enough, or what have you. The people are working best that they have in the country. Let me tell you one thing before I stop. I went to, let me wrap it up real quick. I went to Liberia in 2010, and I took one of my friends home just to do an assessment. She was a psychiatrist. She went to Grant Hospital. There was no psychiatrist there, so the nurses and the PAs were seeing the patients, while the only psychiatrist in Liberia was sitting as the chief of staff to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in her office, and the other guy never even went to Grant Hospital. He just ran his little private practice and did whatever with the international community. That's what we're dealing with. So my friend had to change all the medicines those people were on and diagnose them properly. We have a brain drain in the country, yes, but the people that are doing their best, let's give them their props and then help them help build up the system. That's how I see
Thank
it.
you, Dr. Kula. Dr. Cooper, hold on. You're going to come in because Dr. Kula lay a lot of things on the table there for you, you know.
Yep.
But let me go to Abby first before you come in. Abby, and we are going specifically into the latest autopsy being performed, and they talk about tuberculosis.
Let me,
Right?
I know you want to
I'm
get to
coming.
that.
You can go in any direction.
Okay.
But I want you to speak also to that autopsy, especially when it comes to do with the TB thing. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me size your question for a second there.
Yeah,
As
sure.
a professional person myself, I am not on here to discuss the contents of the autopsy. I did not read it. I'm not trained in forensic pathology, but I don't want anybody coming on here and saying that the professionals on this show are this and that, and we're. I did not come on this show to be talked down to. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I give my opinion on things that I know. Things that I don't know, I leave it for the people who know exactly. Okay. So when I say stuff, it's not Abby Tyler, the family nurse practitioner, talking about things that are just basically opinion, or things I'm just going to give my opinion on. If it's something professional that's in my field, I'm going to talk about it that way. And when we come on here, when we talk about things, that's why I don't like talk about politics when I come on these shows, because people think that you come on here and you're talking down to Liberian people back home. Okay, if you consulted me to go to Liberia as an FNP, okay, family nurse practitioner, to talk about, okay, can you pick out these things? How would you improve this? How would you improve that? And I said, let's sit down and let's talk. Let's bring everything to the forefront and say, how can we fix this one? How can we fix this one? It's not talking down to my colleagues back home. It's saying they brought me in here, obviously, because they're saying they need help from outside. So I'm just coming in to see how we can work together to make things better. So if I say the police force, my mother used to be in the police. Okay. I'm just going to, she was very professional. And I knew a lot of people who worked in the police. I was a child at the time, so I can come across as an adult. But I'm just saying, if I'm saying that they have lack of resources, they don't have enough resources to go after every murder or everything, how is that? Is that incorrect?
No,
I don't think so, because many people have said it before who were also in the police before. They don't have, Liberia doesn't have enough resources to go after every murder. They also don't have enough resources to go after to have like the kind of healthcare that we need to have to be compared to even like the African neighbors, before I even say Western world. So when we bring these things up, it's not to bring our country down, or investors may be watching and they're going to say this. You think investors can't see for themselves? You think they don't have people on the ground looking at things there? They're going to get whatever they're going at from what we're saying here today.
no.
I mean, let's just call a thing a thing. We can't just keep pretending like this, having this pride that, okay, everything is well with Liberia and we don't talk about it and they won't know.
Everything is not well.
Nobody's talking down to anybody in Liberia. Nobody's saying we're better than them, or there's not, murders in Liberia.
Just make your point. Just make your point. Just make your point.
There are murders there every day. There's some unsolved murders every time. But it's not what we're here for. We, you call us on the show to give our opinions or things, and things that's outside of my purview, I'm not going to talk about it. And I said that before. So the other doctors and all that, they can talk about where they do, and I will talk about what I can do, and I give you my opinion. Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Kula, you accused or you said you researched and found out that who he is and everything else. So I'll give him the chance to respond.
Yes, thank you ever so much, Dennis. So to begin with, I'm very disappointed in Dr. Kula, I must say, and here's the reason why.
There's nothing to be disappointed about me. Whatever I said, just explain whether it's true or not.
But you spoke.
Was your last job not as a morgue technician or not?
No, one of my jobs was as a
on public view, where you filed a case against the coroner's office or medical examiner's office,
Dr.
where you
Kula,
served as a morgue technician. Is that not true?
Dr. Kula, let
me explain. You spoke, so let me speak.
Okay, so don't say you're disappointed in me. I'm not your son.
I am disappointed. No,
I'm not your
son. Let him complete.
You will let me speak. First of all, you tried to accuse. I believe that was directed at being political, I have no interest in any political party in Liberia. If you must know, my working at at medical examiner's office was to hone in my skills as I started to look into getting into residency programs. Apart from being an MD, and you can contact Windsor University School of Medicine if you like, I also have a master's in forensic science with a concentration in forensic death investigation from the University of Florida.
Doesn't make you a forensic pathologist.
You're missing the point. You've already testified on this platform, Dr. Kula, that you are not into forensics. So that means you don't have the legs to raise an argument. Okay? Here is the situation, Dennis. As a medical legal death investigator, I have what it takes. And by the way, that which qualifies me as a current fellow with the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners out of Las Vegas, Nevada. It gives me the ability to assist in the establishment of cause and manner of death. When you go through, you're talking about resume, go and look at the CV of Dr. Benedict Coley. This man has no training at all in forensic medicine or forensic science. That's why the people don't have any trust. In this country, you can contact the coroner's, any coroner's office, and they will tell you, Dr. Kula, one, not every case is autopsy, not because they feel it should not be autopsy, but it is their call. If it's a clear-cut situation, it would not be autopsied. Okay? So I've paid my dues academically.
That's common knowledge, man.
No, it is not common knowledge. If it was, you would not have stated earlier that you don't have any background in forensics.
No, I'm saying when I say I don't have any background in forensics, it doesn't mean that I don't understand the practice of forensics. Mind you, I did a pathology rotation and I did do an autopsy, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a forensic pathologist.
Okay, nobody is pretending to be a forensic pathologist. The fact of the matter is, as part of my program, because I had to study, and I went into that specifically so that I would ease the way through when I'm going through residency. So it has put me ahead of the game. And the primary reason as to why I went that route. Hold on, let me finish.
Go ahead, complete, so we can go.
The reason why I went through that was because of my interest in helping Liberia. But you go and write, that is being very disgenuine to the families of those loved ones. You see, we should not be here and condone the wrong thing. If you want to, then you can maybe do a letter to the government of Liberia so that they can hire people who are in forensics or people who are forensically trained to serve the country. But don't come and say that you want to make it seem like I'm wrongfully or falsely accusing Dr. Cole. His CV is there. This morning, we should have had a debate, which he fled from. Okay.
Thank you.
He didn't fly from it. He didn't run from it.
Why did he do?
He decided not to come, which is professional because there will be a second autopsy. He's being a professional person.
You don't even understand the ramifications.
But you guys do. One second. You guys do know you both are arguing among each other. Yeah, okay. That there's obviously bad blood.
I don't want
to. You guys know the scope of practice is wider, is more broad in Liberia, right?
All right.
Well,
thank you, Dr. Cooper. Dr. Cooper, let's leave it at that.
Let's take a break. When we come back, the way he's doing is not right.
And we're going to bring in our people to call. The number is on the screen, so we can let them participate during the last 20 minutes of the show. But let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
Thank you so much, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is Tough Talking Thursday, and we are discussing murders around Monrovia. Is anyone safe? And we have professionals here and our regular panelists at Focus on Liberia to discuss this issue. And I don't want us to lose sight of what we're talking here and go into professional background and so on and so forth. What we have established is a lot of murders in Monrovia, and we are concerned. And so, as citizens of a country, we want to discuss and find solutions. So, with what is going on,
Dennis, can I just say one thing?
Yeah, one second.
Okay.
With what is going on in the country, I think, which is to many of us alarming. What can we do? How do we solve this problem? How do all of us, government, civil society, professionals, all of us come together to find a way so as to solve the issue? That's where we're going to go next. And the phone lines are open. I see a lot of calls there. We have not read comments, and we don't have all that time to go. So, Abby, 1 minute, please go ahead.
Oh, no, the bottom line, not bottom line, but one of the main things in Liberia, like I wrote on my page, and I was also talking on other pages, the coast scope, when you're talking about this person are forensics pathologist and this person is this, in Liberia, from what I'm gathering, the scope of practice for medical people is so broad.
It's very broad, yes.
Okay. And
They
that
have
doesn't make it, that doesn't make it right, and that doesn't make it safe, but it's very broad. So when you're there, I'm trained to be a family nurse practitioner in America. I know my scope of practice where it lies. In Liberia, I can go in there and do, I'm assuming I can do much more than what I'm allowed to do over here.
Exactly.
But that doesn't make it safe. That's one of my main things when I talk about healthcare, when it comes to Liberia and professionalism and trying to improve the system, healthcare and every other system. You have to have trained and competent people to do these things. You can't just say, oh, yes, because Liberia doesn't have this, so Mr. John Doe can do everything because he's got his medical degree, so he can do everything.
But Abby,
and this person
the
can do everything. We
reality
need
is
to change
they're
that way of
working with
thinking.
what they have right now until
But
we
I understand
can
that, but at the same time, where do we go? How do we go forward? Moving forward. Moving forward.
Society
Dr.
where you
Kula,
have
hold on.
oncologist. What do you do?
Dr. Kula,
I'll
hold
take
on.
an example.
Dr. Gulafale, hold on. Hold on, Dr. Gulafale.
Yeah.
Abby, please, you have 20 seconds complete.
No, I'm just saying, I know the scope of practice is, so
It's broad.
we have to work with what we have, but as somebody who works in
until
this
we can
field
get
and all
it
that,
up.
so if I ever, and I'm on
Thank
this
you.
panel,
Yeah.
I always talk about the improvement of healthcare. It's not enough to just keep saying the scope of practice is what it is, and we just, that's the way, because people continue to distrust the government and everything else because we don't have trained and competent people in the right place doing the right things.
Thank you.
have to fix
Dr.
that.
Kula, Dr. Kula, let me come
Dennis,
to you.
let me say something real quick.
No, let me
Abby,
come to you. I have a question for you. I don't want us to go back and forth on this. The issue here is, Dr. Kula, do you believe that the murder rate or the unsolved murders or the mysterious murders in Liberia, is that concerning for you? If yes, what can we do about it?
very concerning for me. And I think in the beginning of my talk, I explained what we could do about it. The issue is not Dr. Coley. The issue is that we don't have homicide detectives. We don't have crime scene investigators. We don't have a forensics lab. We don't have blood splatter experts and people that'll put the pieces together. In every murder, there's means, motive, and opportunity. What is the motive to kill that girl, that beautiful girl? You try to find that out. Who had the means to do it? Who had the opportunity? Then when you have the pathologist going and find out that this girl had a TB, you're still denying that the person doesn't have TB. Why? Because you are poorly resourced on the detective side of things. If it was America, it was going to be a shut case because we have all the pieces.
That's not why the people oppose.
Dr. Kula, do you see, like, let's take, for instance, the death of the auditors, the ones that were on Broad Street, Gifty, and the, what's his name? Do you believe that, the issue they came up with, what was reported, do you believe because we don't have all the professional you just named? Was that the reason?
In that particular case, you can look at it and say they didn't do their work completely, right? Because from what I understand, there was a CC camera but they didn't go there and get the CC camera. There were other pieces that they didn't put together, and then came up with this mini story about people sitting in a car with carbon monoxide. I didn't believe that story. The people in Liberia don't believe their government because their government has botched cases like that. Now, if only the government had done it properly, then they can restore confidence in the system. But there's no confidence in the system.
Thank you. Let's use like 30 seconds each for Dr. Gulafale, Lady J, and call, and then I can take my calls.
Yeah. I just wanted to support Abby's point about people are just, the medical field is just broad. A typical example, which I frowned on, was Dr. Momo, Abel Momo, who happens to be a relative of the deceased Princess Cooper. He was one of the first persons who came up with a report about, what may have happened, what led to her death. And he was totally involved in the investigation, which I think was very wrong. He should not have been part of that preliminary, I think it created some confusion, and it was very unprofessional on the part of the government to give him the authority to do that. And that speaks to exactly what Abby was saying.
Thank you. Lady J, 1 minute.
Yeah, so to touch on a question you asked, I think the government should look into capital punishment for a lot of these things that are happening in Liberia, because I feel that a lot of things, especially rape, is not really being looked into as it should be looked into. So I feel that if a man sodomites or a little boy or gray-headed old puppy, it decides to rape a child that is not even 1 or 2 years old, I feel that they should castrate them. And these things are not being put in place. So if the punishment for perpetrators is just lackadaisious, then people are going to continue doing it. There's no motivation to stop. People can create awareness on the internet and say, you guys, this person did this, and bring them to public disgrace. But what is the government doing in regards to public punishment that is going to stop people from doing it? And then who receives this punishment? Is the rich exempted from receiving punishment when they do certain things and they are shielded? And it's only the poor people that go to jail? These are some of the things that we need to think about as a country when it comes to how to stop these things from happening.
Thank you. Call, 1 minute, please.
You want me to answer which question?
Any comment you have, because we're going around.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I think it's important. I think it's important that we tell the whole story, paint the correct picture. We do have homicide investigators in Liberia. They are poorly resourced. When it comes to education and training, if we don't know what exists on the ground, if we haven't done a proper assessment, we shouldn't make these statements with such confidence. We do have homicide investigators that were trained right here in the United States. And the problem that they're facing is lack of resources. It's extremely expensive to investigate a homicide. It's not something that you do, with your bare hands. You need tools, you need equipment, you need laboratories, you need so many things that are not available. So to keep attacking the competence of people who are working with very minimal resources, especially without having the knowledge of what their skills and training and education are, I think is wrong. Because any of us, if I was given, a responsibility to, do statistical work in Liberia, and I don't have, access to statistical software, I would fail. And that is true with any profession. It wouldn't mean that I'm not educated. It means I can't do, complex statistics with my bare hands, because I was trained to do so using software. And this is just how it is. And I just want people to understand, and translating that to science, it's even more complicated. So please, let's refrain. Dr. Kula, I just heard you say there's no homicide investigators. I know 2 of them. I know 2 of them in Liberia.
I'm sorry if I said there's no homicide investigator.
Yeah, it is not that they don't exist.
What I meant to say, our homicide investigators need training, better training.
They need better equipment. They're well trained.
Better equipment,
They
resources.
need better
exactly.
resources. Exactly. I mean, I
Forensics
just want
labs
us
and
to
all
know
that
that
other
there
stuff.
are a
Do
lot
they have
of.
do they have? I mean, you can be trained, but are they being continually trained? Do they have continuing education classes and all that? Those are the things where when people talk about
So
things,
this is where we talk about resources, but to sit and say that there's no homicide investigators in Liberia is what I'm correcting. We make these statements about things with such confidence that we don't really know, and that's my issue. We're talking
Thank
about
you.
actual human beings.
Thank you. At this time, we have a lot of callers here, and time, we have 20 minutes to go. So let's use
20 minutes ago.
no 20 minutes to go. Let me bring in our first caller here, and that's Kesali Double. Kesali, you have 1 minute, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. John, and thank you, the panelists on the show. I think the show was going fine until my big brother, Dr. Kula, came in and started the whole thing to go around the table. I mean, no Liberian, whether in favor of this government or not, is happy with what's going on in the country. Everyone is frustrated. Everyone is disturbed. This is something that we've discussed over and over again. And we need to keep speaking on it. If possible, we can emphasize to the higher we can exaggerate. Let's do everything we can do possible as Liberians to make sure that this thing is fulfilled. Let's get rid of this madness. This is a complete madness, and I see no reason why anybody for that matter should support it. It's wrong. It's completely wrong. If Dr. Kuli knew very well that the job he was doing needed detailed investigation by the police, he would have said that instead of coming up with a full-fledged investigation, instead define people that he stand by his investigation, and anybody who conducts that investigation will come up with the same thing.
He stands by his pathology report.
Any other person, he stands by his word.
He's not a detective.
They don't know what
he stands by his pathology report.
That's true. That is true.
Stephen Adam. Stephen, you're live. Go ahead, 1 minute, please.
Good evening to the panelists. Good evening, Daniel. I'm a little bit distant. I found the program to my very disconcerting because when professionals are discussing issues, it isn't necessary to throw innuendos at each other. You discuss the facts, you disagree, and you move on. One thing I'd like to say is that having lived in Liberia for 10 years, in 2005 to 2014, the country putting a system together that will allow continuity in the transfer of governance is the only way we can get out of the quagmire that we're in today. Clearly, the people that are running the government today are just not qualified. Clearly, the people that are making decisions, medical decisions and decisions for something like what Dr. Colley did, was not appropriate because he didn't have perhaps the requisite credential. I sent a slight article that said that, Dr. Colley may have a good heart and be committed to the country, but it doesn't cut it. Decisions such as what happened to Mrs. Cooper requires the intervention of a forensic pathologist. Because my sister is a doctor, and I discussed this very, very a lot. And she indicated that, if you have tuberculosis, there's a possibility that you have a rupture of or rupture that will culminate to death. But in fact, that happens about 20% or less than 10% of the time. So to be so conclusive, I think was wrong. And I think Dr. Kula's actions tonight was disingenuous and it slighted the very brilliant professional panel that was in this having this discussion.
Thank you. Let me go to
Dennis. I'm ready to take whatever it takes, but let's be honest. If we're gonna question
Dr. Kula,
the professionalism and the qualifications of our people over there, we should be honest enough to say what our qualifications are and whatnot. We shouldn't just come here and throw things at people and act like we're experts.
I got your point. I got your point. Let me go to Benjamin CJ Jonah. CJ, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Yes, thank you for having me. And I want to say a big thanks to Dr. Kula because I know Dr. Kula is someone who bashes the CP government every time. And most of all the things he said tonight, I 100% believe in and I trust it. And let me tell you why. I have searched that every time I saw Dr. Rockefeller talking about issues about his forensic background, he always said, I studied forensic. By you studying forensic does not make you a forensic pathologist. I went and I searched every place on this earth in America on all of the
Ben. Ben, can you speak to the issue and leave his credentials alone?
I am speaking to the issue.
Okay.
No, Dennis. Before you and I came to America, all right, those are the people who took care of us. I am a nurse today, but if I was not in America, I would be seeing those same people who are back home today. So to come here and bash them as if these people do not exist, I think it's wrong. All we can do, we can make the necessary correction that we can make. But to just, this man has not even seen this man work, and he just sit here and then just bashing.
That is not correct. We did an autopsy together. That is not correct. I'm telling you now, that is not correct. I've worked with him. It is not correct. And my background is in forensic.
Hold on, Dr. Cooper. Ben, I know you and myself were on the camera. You were a cameraman, so I know your background. But Ben, just speak to the issue. Let's leave the credential business.
We question the police credentials, but we can't talk about other people's credentials.
They are not bashing them.
How fair is that?
Mr. Guy, let's be honest. This pathology work is being questioned. And let me tell people, just as a common, registered nurse, any pathology, I'm saying absolutely, any pathology can conduct an autopsy.
Thank you.
I'm not saying so. Any. So it means that doctor in Liberia, he was in the right and he has the credentials to conduct that particular autopsy. And in fact, before you can even move to a forensic pathologist, if the issue cannot be solved by a regular pathologist, then it moves to that next stage.
Thank you.
That's true.
It's too bad, man.
Thank you, Ben. We have a lot of color. Let's take Elvis Morris. Elvis, 1 minute, please. Don't be like Ben. It took too long.
Thank you so much, Mr. John. Quickly, I just want to say, the whole thing about the deaths that's going on, being worrying, people talking about it's unsafe in Liberia. What makes it unsafe? Right in this America, somebody can take a gun and come to you and shoot you. What's stopping that person from shooting you? The police around you, to protect you 24/7. So that's happening in every country. People kill each other, people commit crime. There's nothing unusual about it. The biggest problem is the government, solving these cases. And that comes down to the lack of resources. Everybody can acknowledge that. So when people come in, we start panicking and say because there's one black guy died, that means that everybody that low bread will be in trouble in Liberia. And I take offense to the fact that the other person that died around the same time as her, that person not getting a lot of, the guy who died, is not getting a lot of media attention because he's not a young, bright, beautiful young guy. So everybody don't care about him.
Amen.
This young, beautiful girl. What does the have to do with her death? Every death is equally as important. So the main problem here is that we don't have enough resources, and thereby this is the side effect of having a poor country. We're a poor country, and it's a sort of some of the side effects, lack of resources. So that's my comment. Thank you so much, Mr. John.
Thank you.
You're talking about it, but then you said we shouldn't talk about it. So then what's the point? If we don't talk about the whole thing and we're talking about the whole thing, the unsafety of everything, you said don't talk about it because you make Liberia look bad. But then I know you guys talking on both sides of your mouth here. I don't
let's talk about it, but let's admit reality.
We have to be
honest.
Thank you.
I just want to address the caller. He said something about being in America. Anybody can shoot you. Nobody here being, security and stuff like that. But a Liberian woman died, was killed by her spouse about 3 weeks ago. The police was able to apprehend him. make sure that they find out what happened and charge him. And that was within a couple of 3 to 4 days. That happened here.
Thank you.
All we're asking is, can we get some answers to these questions? It's mind-boggling when a young woman's life is taken away and we don't know what happened. There's no one to hold responsible for this death. That means another person can jump on and do the same thing. There's been a lot of it's been a trend. There's been a lot of a death like this happening, and we don't have no answers.
I agree.
So, I come in. Let me land, Dennis. So what happens? I come in. So what happens when I go to Liberia and somebody takes my life? Is somebody going to be able to find out? God forbid, this is not going to happen. But is somebody going to be able to come and find out what happened to Jessica? I'm just going to be a statistic because I was at the wrong place, or I wronged somebody that decided they're going to take my life. This is what we're talking about. We want to find solutions to these things. We want to understand what's happening. Who killed who? Why was the person killed? This is all we're asking.
Thank you. Thank you. And I like that, because this comparison that, hey, people die in America too, and so we shouldn't. That's absurd. I don't like to hear it.
Yeah, but Dennis, we also have to acknowledge a lot of murders are solved in Liberia. A lot of people are in prison for killing their spouses in Liberia. We get newspaper reports all the time. This man killed his wife in Bone County, and they show his picture in handcuffs. So we shouldn't make it sound like everybody's dead in Liberia and nobody goes to jail.
Newspapers then?
The newspaper is trusted now?
No, I'm saying, what I'm saying is you're seeing a photograph of a person. Listen to me, and listen to me well. No, I'm gonna address this issue right once and for all. We're adults. When I'm talking about a scientific report and a newspaper guy's interpretation or misinterpretation of it versus here's a picture of a guy who killed his wife, his name is XYZ and he's going to jail, there's a big difference there. So I don't come on this show, to play those kinds of games. We're going to talk, we're going to just address issues, and we're going to do so sincerely. Don't try to twist stuff I say. This is recorded. You can rewind it and go back. There's a huge difference.
Thank you. And in fact, Sam Wallace said, thank you, Carl. Dennis has an agenda. It is obvious.
Dennis, Dennis, let me say something real quick.
I think I'm part of
Dr. Kula, can I just take a few calls?
Oh, yeah, you're still taking calls.
The newspapers are unprofessional in Liberia.
I just want to take
anything you write, we don't have to reference them. They are poorly written.
They are poorly written, but are you saying that there's a comparison between a scientific report and a picture of a guy who murdered somebody? I don't know how poorly you write that. How can that be misinterpreted? Come on, man. You guys are more intelligent than that. Don't come at me like that.
Hold on. Everybody muted. Let me get my calls here quickly. Please write it down. This call is from Lowell, Massachusetts. Your name, please.
Dennis, this is Gamade Clinton.
Gamade, what are you doing? What are you doing with Lowell number?
I'm in Low right now.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Gamade.
Look, first, before I even get on point now, I just wanted to tell Mrs. Famole, a big thank you tonight. I mean, she's on top of the issues, and it's important what she's doing. It's holding these professionals to their feet, right? We cannot join the ordinary, quote-unquote, people to speak, and be involved in the decision. For instance, Dr. Golafale is talking about a report. He's never read a report before, but he's printing to a newspaper article and saying that he wants to see the chemical formula. The newspaper report is going to tell you the cause of death is because of carbon dioxide, but it's not going to give you all the chemical formula. You're not going to know the blood level, everything from there. So you cannot come and make an informed statement for that. You have to read a report. And for all the other people who are condemning this doctor for his work he's done, right?
Gamada, let me stop you. Right. Did anybody on this panel condemn Dr. Cooley?
A lot of people have been doing that.
I mean, on this panel tonight.
Questioning the competence of the doctor.
No, I'm talking about tonight on the panel.
The competence of the doctor of doing his work.
On the panel tonight, did anybody? Hold on, Gamada.
Okay. Dennis, let's move on. Until you have another autopsy that challenges or tends to contradict the findings of that doctor, let us respect the report as it is.
Thank you.
let me also state, right? Let me also state that the rate in any city in the United States, and let's compare the murder to capital rate, and let's compare the number of cases that go unsolved. You will think that maybe you're most city like brother living in an American city.
The population,
again, like the cow said, there are a lot of murders that get solved, right? Few of these matters become sensationalized because there are figures who want to score their own political points, pick these issues up, and they try to blow it up, right? So many matters get solved on a daily basis in Liberia. So many people are in jail for murders.
Thank
right?
you.
You can't just take one and two murders and blow it up and then say the entire Liberia is important. That's just not true.
Thank you. Let me go to a call from Hartford, Connecticut number. Your name and where you calling from tonight? Oh, sorry. This caller with number 806 area code. Go ahead. Your name, please.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Your name, please.
Oh, my name is Othello Nari. I'm calling from Connecticut.
Go ahead, Othello. You have
yeah,
1 minute.
I just want to say that Akula, thank you very much on the show. And Liberia is all Liberians. All the professionals on the table down and talking today, we all need to go and help our country. We have all the capacity and all the training that we have today. Lord, go and help our country. We can't sit down here and dragging our nations on the ground, on the bus. If you have that's a corporate, we all people are all professional doctors. Why can we come together? All the doctors come together in the United States or all over the world to go in Liberia and help our people. When someone doing something in Liberia, we try to tell the people that those that are doing it, they are not good. And how about yourself when you go there tomorrow? How someone else will call you?
Thank you.
This what we do for our country is not good for Liberia. That's a cool out. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And keep doing what you're saying on the show. Let's all go and help our nation. That's just to just happy whatsoever to call them.
Oh.
You put that.
All right, let's go to Jimmy. Jimmy, go ahead.
Hey, John. Really riveting conversation. I'm enjoying your panelists. It got a little bit heated.
Right, it should be heated.
It's Tough Talking Thursday.
Thursday,
that's
right.
Yeah. Anyway, I think one thing we need to, establish a forefront. Are we talking about the number of murders or the number of solved murders? We should distinguish the two because Liberia's reputation is at risk. You'd be surprised that Liberia's murder rate is way lower than other countries. If I was to give you the statistics, you would find that Liberia is around 3.2, whereas somewhere like Lesotho is like 43. Even Namibia is at 17. Botswana 15. So you notice that South Africa
let's start with Ghana, Nigeria. Ghana, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast. Let's keep it around there.
Sierra Leone is a little bit high. Ghana is about our rate as Liberia is.
Okay.
Let me go down to Ghana. Okay, but here's another point. You would think that what discourages crime will be the severity of punishment. But scientifically, they found that the most certain thing that vastly discourages crime is the certainty of being caught. So we allowing crime to go uncaught, nobody gets captured, nobody gets questioned. That helps to increase crime. So our ability or the message we need to send that we have to catch people. We have to go after people when there's a committed crime. I hear a lot of national leaders talking about we all one family. We shouldn't do. No. The only way we're going to discourage crime is that people know they're going to get caught.
Good.
And that's a scientific fact.
So Jimmy,
all I wanted to add there.
No. So Jimmy, before you go, because you put a lot of things on the table, are you saying because of our statistics is low, so is that okay? And if people are not getting caught, hold on. Good. If people are not getting caught, because you say what would discourage crime is the possibility of being caught. is that really happening in Liberia? If not, why?
Okay, so first of all, when every person that dies is an alarming situation. No human life is unimportant.
Right.
So it matters. It matters. Okay, but what I'm saying is Liberia really a risky place? Like some people sensationalize, politicize. We are compared to other places. We are very, very much safer.
All right, I got your
that's
point.
That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. But definitely, there's one thing: if we allow crimes to go unpunished, uninvestigated, and scot-free, we can be certain it is going to be on the rise. The last thing I want to say, our police force. We have to be compiling a database and telling the public about these murders. If it's on the rise, if it's what's happening, we need analytics to solve our problems. And without compiling information on what's going on in the country, we are uninformed.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Now, Dennis, real quickly, the show seems to be losing its integrity. You know, I guess they're having some sort of misperception. You need to let the callers know that we are not here trying to just tear down Liberia. We are identifying issues and we are trying to come up with solutions to those or recommendations to those issues. People are apparently they're not taking it that way. And also the concern here, we're not trying to compare Liberia with other countries. Liberians are not accustomed to seeing these kinds of deaths, especially mysterious deaths. So it's not about comparing between Liberia and Chicago or Los Angeles. That's not why we are here. Also, people need to understand that we are not just tearing down, doctors in Liberia, but we are looking at the outcome from the task, which is impeded by the level of training. And that is an argument that I can take anybody heads on, because when you carry out a death investigation here in the U.S., if I get shot right now, the autopsy will show whether it was homicide or suicide. Not for someone to come and do an autopsy and then to label it something else. As a decedent, that is not fair. That is not fair to me, and is not fair to my family. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper.
That is the issue.
Thank you. And so how does do the opinions of the people is making the show to lose its integrity?
No, because people calling the first they're saying that Liberians trying to tear.
Right, that's their opinion. We don't want to.
That's their perception. Yeah. They're watching us and they're making a determination.
Right.
So but that's what I'm saying. They need to understand. They need to understand first and foremost why we gather here this evening.
Right, and we'll get that chance to explain. But I think that they are doing what they're supposed to do. Call and tell us how they feel. Let me go to Blessed Paul, who is calling from Minnesota.
Oh,
Mr. Paul.
It is.
Yeah. No, I got two more. I got
it's
one
not
more. Just go ahead. The people complaining. So 30 seconds.
Yeah. So thanks for taking my call, Dennis. So America got suffering people. America got unemployment. America has injustice. So all those are saying people die everywhere. Let them pack the bag and go back to Liberia. You know?
Amen.
Because the law of hypocrisy that we speak with is so unfortunate. America got injustice. America got suffering people. America got unemployed people. So some people die everywhere. All those are talking about people die. Let them pack the bag and move back to Liberia, and that would be cool. You know what I mean? We all see the problem. We know exactly what's going on. We know it's wrong, but we are talking about people die everywhere. Of course, people die everywhere. But the difference between somebody dying in America and dying in Liberia, at least you have some kind of a chance that someone will go after you and find who murder you.
Thank
you.
I
mean? That's all we're talking about. We want justice on the people that sick.
Thank you. Let me bring on the.
I got a train of thought. I don't want to miss that train of thought. Please let me say something.
Jessica, let me get the last caller and then
go ahead.
Yeah, let me get the last. This is really the last caller. Tavina, Tavina, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. Two questions. One for Dr. Kula and one for Dr. Rockefeller. Dr. Kula, let's just say the young lady died of TB. on Monday, the police announced that they were doing contact tracing for TB. I will also know that in 48 to 72 hours, you can read a TB test. So have your friend told you how many people they found with TB? Because that girl been in a relationship with a young man for a while, so he should be the first person. So how many people do we have today that have already contacted TB? So please tell us. And then Dr. Rockefeller, based on your education and I would say your work experience because you are a forensic investigator, how important is this second autopsy to this case? In my opinion, I think the evidence has been destroyed in many ways. So I just want to hear your take on that. What impact will it have on the case other than proving the cause of death?
Thank you.
Telvi, let me ask Telvi real quick. Telvi, was your question?
Hold on, Dr. Kula. You rushing.
Can I clarify the question?
I'll clarify for you. Lady J, go ahead.
Thank you. So a caller came out and said something about, if Abby want to go to Liberia and do this, it'll be nice than just sitting up here and saying certain things. And this has been the mindset of a lot of Liberians. I've been on the internet since discussing Liberia, where we'll go on there to discuss issues, and people come on. The first thing they ask, "What you done for Liberia?"
I know it.
What you done for Liberia? You're not qualified to speak on issues about Liberia because you're living in the States and you don't know anything about what's going on here.
Don't matter.
So the mindset of the people is the number one problem that we have. If I be left from here today and went to Liberia and said, "Let me help," the first thing they'll be doing is, what she did, she is to can't talk about this and stuff like that. Instead of then embracing her and allowing her to show what she has. When it comes to any career, there needs to be a maintenance. There needs to be training. Training needs to happen because every time things changes. And so if there is no change, if there's no training, people don't get up to speed. I feel most of the people in Liberia, they are there and they are professionals, but no training. So where nurses would know things that's happening right now in the now and here, the nurses in Liberia will be left behind 10 years because they don't have that training that is supposed to be happening every time. So when we change our mindset about how we feel, we that live here feel about Liberia, maybe things will change a little bit. When we talk, we're not talking because we want to talk down on anybody or whatever, but we've come on this side, we've been privileged to see a different life, to understand things differently. So we are just trying to inject some of these things into our home so our home can be better for tomorrow.
Thank you. Dr. Kula.
Telvi, was your question, did you say my friend? Is that what you said?
No, the question is for the TB. If this lady died from TB.
No, but did she say,
hold on now. You want to understand the question? Forget about
no, listen a second. I want to ask Telvi. Telvi, did you say, have I asked my friend? Is that what you said?
Forget about that. Let's go to the TB question.
Because in Liberia, we look at everything through either a political lens, through either a lens of somebody having something to gain from this or being associated with a person. I'm not associated with that man in no way, shape, or form. I don't know that man from anywhere. But I listened to that man, and what he presented was scientific findings. And you can't deny science. You can't deny science. And that's all I'm saying, that he presented a scientific finding. He's not a detective, so he can't do what the detective should have done. But as far as his science is concerned, he stands by it, and what he did was professional science. So he's not my friend. I don't know him. I have not talked to him about whether the tests have come back or not. If you want to find out whether the tests have come back, call Ministry of Health and find that through the minister or whoever else that does contact tracing.
So, Dr. Kula, I have a question for you regarding the scientific work he did, and when he stated, because I still need a clarity on this from people like you on his conclusion about expert opinion. How does expert opinion compare to scientific findings, and the issue of opinion? How did that settle the dispute about the report?
Can you complete the entire context? What did he say as far as expert opinion?
He said
expert.
He said expert. In our professional and expert opinion, the cause of death is natural. So my question is it something that has to be opinionated, or it has to be based on the findings that are scientific?
Based on the findings that's scientific, but you also got to realize you're talking to a gentleman in Liberia that his English is not going to be like yours, or it's not going to be like your professors in America, right?
Are you serious?
Let's be honest. So
Let him finish.
Listened to that. I listened to that gentleman, and a lot of the way he explained things could have been explained better. But to say by his expert opinion, it doesn't mean it's his opinion divorced from science. He's saying based on all the facts, based on the slides that I did, based on what I found when I examined her, based on the CT scan, as an expert, a pathologist.
Opinion.
My findings. Yeah, opinion. Yeah, it's an expert opinion based on science.
Yeah, but they
no, it's not opinion in the layman's term like we're here.
Yeah,
opinions. No, that's not what he did. That man showed slides. He went through and discussed the case and has documentation. So he's not going off an opinion. He's going off of his science.
Thank you. So Dr. Kula, you're saying he misspoke when he said opinion?
No, I mean because you're taking the word opinion to mean I'm just making this stuff up, like like how we said now you're talking. No, that's not the context in which he was speaking. Look at the full context.
Thank you.
Look at the full context.
So expert opinions are scientific views or comments, by an expert. So it's definitely based when someone has a scientific opinion or an expert opinion, they're drawing a conclusion based on evidence, based on their technical knowledge. I mean, that's when we request expert opinions on the policy level, we are expecting that it's based on actual data or science or something. We're not expecting them to just pull stuff out of the air.
Well, that's the interpretation I think you would think.
No,
because
it's not the interpretation.
If that man should publish a paper on that report, 9 out of 10 that paper would be rejected based on using expert opinion as a way to conclude.
That's true.
He already collected scientific evidence, and you were talking about the English. Yeah, the English does matter.
So you're saying, let me ask you something. So you're saying scientists don't have expert opinions based on the science?
They do. That's not what I'm saying. They do have expert opinions. For example, he can seek expert opinion on the report, but for him to conclude that it's based on this expert opinion that the cause of death is natural, it pushes aside the scientific evidence.
I see what you're saying. You really think that's what he meant, though? I don't think that's what he meant.
Opinions have a subjective influence.
No, it
I don't think that's what he meant.
The man is basing his opinion based on all the things that he
got your response,
his slides, his report, everything.
All right, so if we talk about his slide, did he show this lady's lungs that showed the exact lungs that showed that there was something going on?
That is in the report.
Versus
the slides are in the report.
Showing something from the internet. So that's my concern as well. Why did you show
anything from the internet? He showed the lady's lungs.
He actually did. So can I come in, Dennis?
The lungs were there alongside the picture of a lung.
So the autopsy is not something that he's going to go on a talk show on the internet and show the body parts of someone's relative.
Okay.
You guys have to understand that there's a lot of, you can't do that. He wouldn't take her actual, slides from actual, her actual tissue and show that on Spoon TV. That would be an outrage.
No. But then why did he show lungs anyway?
That is not correct.
I mean, he can show some random lungs, but you're not going to want to show photos.
All right.
That is not correct.
Dr. Rockefeller come in.
Dennis, let me
go ahead.
The press conference, he did.
Let me come in.
He showed her actual tissue at the press conference?
Yes.
The slide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Let me.
That's absurd.
Right. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, the
Dennis.
Different.
Hold on,
we have
Dr.
to get our people.
Oh my God.
Go ahead, Dr. Cooper.
Yeah, man. Look, so first and foremost, Mrs. Fumberland, they should not have had a presentation on this on these cases the way they did.
Of course, I agree with that 100%.
However, playing the devil's advocate here, The reason why they did the presentation, which could have been done as in just like a press conference without showing pictures, okay, was because of how these cases have been sensationalized.
Right.
Okay. No, I understand what you're saying. Based on HIPAA, period.
Right.
Even when
there's no HIPAA law in Liberia, but I understand. Just the ethics of it.
The reason why I'm saying that, the reason why I'm saying that, I'm talking about HIPAA, Mrs. Farmer, is because you and I are here and we're familiar with it, and I understand why you are also surprised. Okay, but that's why I said in Liberia, the reason why it was done that way was to basically, in order to appease the public and to make them understand. Okay.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
Now, let me question. I need to answer this. What was her name again? Tilia or Telly? I'm not sure. Because she
just go ahead. Yeah, listening.
Okay,
we're listening.
So, here is the situation. The second autopsy, as you asked, is important.
Right.
However, there are challenges that one could face whilst performing a second autopsy. So during the second autopsy, you go in there and you try to get tissue samples as well, so that you would have replica of microscopic slides that were prepared. Okay, and then so you can view under the microscope. Now, this lady's autopsy was done 3 weeks. I want to believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, a little over or maybe over 3 weeks ago. If those tissue samples were not or are not being preserved properly in the breakdown, they may not have any value as far as microscopic analysis are concerned. The next issue is this: you have to examine the body itself to rule out issues of foul play.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And because the actual report has not yet been released to the public, I will not expand on that so that I don't contribute in any way to this form. I mean, to the to the process. Now, one of the reasons why the second autopsy is important is because, now I will tell you this, based on an expert opinion as a member of the IAI, the International Association of Identification, an international body of whom I have a membership with a concentration in blood stain pattern analysis, looking at the scene and the disbursement of the blood, even setting aside my experience in forensics, anybody who studied medicine looking at the quantity of blood will not believe that young lady, vomited blood as it is dispersed on the scene. And I can say that, Rockefeller Cooper, can say that based on my expert opinion, which I've been certified by the IAI.
So Rockefeller, you're a blood splatter expert now?
I just told you. You talk about expert opinion, and there's a reason why I'm saying this.
Yeah.
Listen to this, Dennis. Listen to this very important information.
Did you see the amount of blood in that lady's stomach?
Oh, listen to me.
I will mute you. Don't worry.
Yes. So here's the thing, Dennis. The blood stain pattern does not even support that young lady moved and went to the back. It shows that her body was placed in that position. That's one. When you look at the pictures that were shown, okay, they showed it was about 10 liters of blood, I believe, that was in her stomach. However, no source of the blood was discovered. Anytime you have, and Dr. Kula,
artery, idiot.
No source. Excuse me. The doctor said that in the stomach where the blood was. Okay.
I thought I was muted. Sorry.
He said that there was no. That there was no source. To show where the blood came from in her stomach. Okay. So the problem here is that people are looking at with tuberculosis, that she died from tuberculosis of all things. How is that possible? Looking at the amount of blood that was expelled from the body, there's no source of the blood. These are questions. And by the way, the video has been shared with members of the forensic pathology community or forensic community as a whole that I affiliate with, and they find it also hard to believe that she could have possibly died from tuberculosis. So
I don't think it said she died from tuberculosis, though, did it?
No.
That was not the cause of death.
A ruptured aneurysm.
I saw probably more than I needed to see, but she didn't die from TB.
I don't have
The report doesn't say she died from TB.
my
A
notes
ruptured
here.
aneurysm.
So
Right, that's what it says. A ruptured aneurysm, not from tuberculosis.
it was. I'm just saying what is being said. I didn't
But
do
that's
that.
not what the report says. She didn't. Nobody says she died from TB.
It was. Well, I don't know.
Liberians are saying, "Oh, that TB she died from." No, a ruptured
She didn't die from
aneurysm.
TB.
Let me see here.
Dr.
I
Cooper.
made a little
And I
bit.
mean, I'm not a medical person, but I mean, it's written in English. It doesn't say she died from TB.
Ruptured aneurysm. She
Cause
died
of
from a
death.
ruptured
Line
aneurysm.
says she died from natural causes.
Listen, let me say
It
this.
says a ruptured aneurysm, a
Hold
specific
on.
type of aneurysm. I can't remember what it's called.
Guys, I made notes here so that I want to share with you all so that you understand. Okay, the cause of death was ruled as natural, so the a natural manner of death.
And it specifically says it's something, a type of aneurysm.
If you hold on, I will read so you can hear.
Mm-hmm.
There's mass hemorrhage of the ruptured Rasmussen aneurysm.
Yes,
and
that's what it says.
Vessel.
That's what it says.
If you let me finish.
Hold on. Let
Progressive. That's progressive second-degree pulmonary tuberculosis. So you see, here's the thing, Mrs. Family. I know that you're not into the medicine, but especially when it comes to like giving cause of death, what the doctor would try to do, okay, is to give basically
what caused the aneurysm.
No, basically it's in any form like tertiary, secondary, and primary. Okay, so you can say the person died from gunshot.
I mean, this is very basic. I understand this.
Yeah. Okay, so they try to walk it down into it
and whatnot.
Okay,
but I mean,
so because of that, that's why people are having a problem with, because they hold on. The thing here is this: the crime scene or the death scene is not pointing towards natural causes of death.
Okay, Dr. Rockefeller, let me ask you a question really quickly, because we're good. Let me just ask him something.
Yeah,
so you talked about blood splatter pattern. Let me just ask him. I want quick clarification. Don't cut me off. Blood splatter clarification. I mean, expert as you are, the body was moved. If someone was injured from the outside and was bleeding, would there not be a blood trail showing where she was dragged? Would she not be in a pool of blood? On the photographs, there's absolutely no blood around the body. I didn't see her laying in a pool of blood. I didn't see trickles of blood leading to the body. I didn't see a smear of blood to show where someone is dragged. And I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a blood splatter expert, but that is one of the things that's making me to believe. That's one of the things that's making me to believe that Dr. Cully is correct. Because I didn't see that drag pattern that would happen if a person were bleeding, let's say, from a stab wound or a gunshot wound.
And you know what, Mrs. Family, I admire your intelligence. I love the way you put your questions. Let me enlighten you on this fact again. There was also evidence, okay, to show that there was blood was wiped from somewhere, and the material that was used to wipe the blood, okay, was thrown in the back. Okay. Something happened to her somewhere, and her body was transported to that position. So that's why, based on the forensic evidence, you see, that's why I did not disagree, if you notice, with the issues that Dr. Golafali was raising. Because when you talk about expert opinion, what is your level of education in the forensics to give? Because you cannot exclude the forensic facts from this case. The bloodstain pattern, okay, you cannot exclude it. That says a lot. And as you rightfully stated, Mrs. Fumbler, people need training, or they need resources to support the efforts. Okay, you cannot eliminate the scene, the forensic component, and because due to the lack or should I say an abundance or education in the field of forensics, that's why it brings, when you say based on your expert opinion, you did not do an analysis of the crime scene. If you did an analysis of the crime scene, how qualified are you to do that?
Thank you, Dr.
So it is big. No, I'm coming. I want to
please conclude 30 minutes. We are out of time.
Can understand. So it is based on these different components that issues are being raised. Okay, and we're not just trying to just attack or to base this on political affiliation like I was accused of doing earlier. Okay, there's no motive here. It is just based on the facts. And our fear here, again, based on the interest that we all have in Liberia, as I believe, is we don't want this to be customary. You heard what Lady J said.
Thank you,
Something
Dr.
happens
Cooper.
to one person,
I
you
want
sweep
to.
it under the carpet, and then it happens
It's
again.
10 o'clock.
So, you know.
Dr. Cooper, thank you.
Okay.
It's almost 10 o'clock. I don't want to keep my panelists for
Past my
too long.
bedtime.
Right. So thank you all very much. And this will interest you, right? A comment that I saw here. The comment said there should be no cause. I should give Dr. Kula and Dr. Cooper chance to debate.
No, I mean, it's not really
no,
to
Dr.
debate
Dr.
him.
Kula.
I just want to say that I did.
So at this time,
He cut the mail.
At this time, let's go around the room, 30 seconds each, and I mean 30 seconds, so that we can give our closing. Let me start with Dr. Kula. 30 seconds, your closing, please.
30 seconds, my closing. I think the issues here are multiple. The government initially botched some cases that they should have taken time with. The president shouldn't have said what he said about Gifty Lama and all people. Because of that, it's caused our people to be very cynical and not trust the government. However, in this particular case, I have no reason not to believe the work of Dr. Coley. What our problem really is misplaced priorities where our government is too top heavy. They're not resourcing the police. They're not resourcing our doctors. Dr. Coley only makes about $34,000 according to him. The neurosurgeon, Dr. Dona, only makes about $48,000. They're only one of each specialist in the country. Everybody else is outside the country. So the people are working with what they have. We have an opportunity now. Hold on one second. Let me finish real quick. We have an opportunity now to do certain things, to resource the police in the homicide department, to resource the doctors in pathology and forensics and all of that, but also the Liberian populace. You got to go and get an annual checkup at least once before you enter school, whether elementary, junior high, high school, before you go to work, so you know a baseline where you stand in terms of health. And once you do that, then the people have something to rely on when something happens to you. But I'm not going to throw all our people under the bus and make it seem like they're so incompetent and whatnot.
Thank you. Abby, your closing comments, and let's look at all the issues we discussed tonight. Go ahead, Abby.
Oh, you're muted.
Abby, you are muted. Unmute yourself and your closing comment, please.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Gulafale?
Yeah, Mr. Jha, thank you for having me in here. I think what I would say that something I didn't say, I got my education in Liberia. I got my bachelor's degree there in chemistry, and I've worked here as a researcher and, use my degree from Liberia, which I trust. And the people here who I work with trust. I agree partly with the call for us not to, look down our people in some manner or that they're not qualified. I totally agree with that. But at the same time, we have to be honest about what is happening in Liberia. And it brought us around the issue of honesty and loyalty. I continue to push. There's a political side to it. And we have to be honest that the politics is playing a role in how people view things. And I think to look at it squarely from the whole system in Liberia is I continue to emphasize the social structures are completely broken for education, health, everywhere is broken, and it's a big challenge to put these things together. We cannot just sit here and say some of us have been home and doing it. We know the challenges there, the pushbacks we get, even if you want to do it, and I think we have to be real and look at it honestly from a scientific point of view, from every point of view. We have to involve the experts. We have to be honest. And I enjoy the show. Thank Ms. Famule for the level of engagement. I enjoy that. Lady J, Abby, Dr. Cooper, and of course, Dr. Kula. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl?
Yeah, I enjoyed the show as well. It's Tough Talking Thursday. I think you guys talked really tough. That's what the show is about, is to say things that are not necessarily nice or polite. So I appreciate all the panelists. I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Doe, who was mentioned. My late great mentor, Dr. Sawyer, had been going to U.S. doctors for, headaches, chronic pain in his head. And they all missed his diagnosis with all of their fancy equipment and all their high tech. It was Dr. Doe with the limited resources that finally diagnosed him correctly.
Wow.
And I want us to know that our people back home, we have geniuses, people that if they had been given the opportunities that some of us have had, would have done so much more. And when I say we need to acknowledge their education and their expertise, I mean it. And I mean it, from the bottom of my heart. I've worked in Liberia with some of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with that can make things out of nothing because they have been called, to that task and they step up. So much respect to our professionals back home, and let's all work together to get the resources to them so that they can do what they need to do. But these people are making, miracles out of very difficult situations, and they deserve our respect.
Thank you, Cole. Dr. Cooper.
Yeah, so that is well. Thanks for having me. It was, quite an experience. But I will say this. So I think, we, especially those of us in the medical field or medical professions, however you want to call it, we should be able to call a spade a spade. When we have an issue, instead of trying to cover up and, and not be honest, I don't think it is being fair to our Liberian people because especially looking at the issue which brought us here together this evening, I don't think anybody wants to lose a loved one. And, there are a lot of skepticisms within the investigation due to lack of requisite training. So I think it is very important that we push an agenda so that, things can be done appropriately. And, with that being said, I would like to thank you once again for having me, Dennis.
Thank you. Lady J, you got the last word.
Yeah, brilliant minds have come from Liberia and they're still coming from Liberia. So we have to continue, making sure that we encourage the people back home. Even though there are challenges, we just want to make sure that Liberia has a worldview standard when it comes to doing certain things.
Of course.
And that's what we're holding them accountable for. And we want to continue to make sure that we honest, and it's also being supportive of our people, making sure that we are, giving back, even though, as Kay said, there's pushback all the time, but we have to continue putting our hands around them and doing what we can do to be supportive to them. Thank you.
On that note, I want to say thank you so much for coming tonight on Tough Talking Thursday. We didn't exhaust all our Tough Talking Thursday sessions, but we want to call you back as soon as possible. Until then, we're going to end with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Because whether you believe everything you believe about Liberia or not, we are Liberians. What is incumbent upon us, I always emphasize, is we must do everything to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Thank you and have a good night.
At Focus on Liberia.
We are Liberians.